All right, we are live, and good morning to everybody who is watching us on YouTube, also LinkedIn and Facebook, or listening to us in Clubhouse. Yes, today we have Michael Tourism with us. I hope that I do not mispronounce your family name, Mike. It's always a challenge for me to be, to do right with family names. And welcome to you, Mike. Just let me
Thank you.
get in with
Yeah,
us.
welcome. Good
I would
morning,
like to
everybody.
say yes, good morning to everybody. So,
Yeah.
to people who haven't met you yet on LinkedIn or in person, I just want to say briefly that Michael is an AI product manager and also a manga author and a book publisher. So, today we're going to talk about a topic that probably maybe people are interested in about self publishing and how you can do that on your own or maybe with the help of somebody like Michael. So, Mike, I don't want, I'm sorry, I don't want to keep people waiting. Let's go straight into the topic. And, well, if you don't mind starting with a little bit of your self introduction, and from there, start talking about how to self publish a book, particularly in Japan, because there are quite a few things that are specific to this country.
Yes. Yes. Oh, thanks for that kind introduction. Yeah, so I'm American. I've been in Japan 15, going on 16 years. I'm from Chicago originally in the US. Share the same hometown as our co-host Tim here. One of the reasons I'm on the show is knowing him through that connection over the years. And yeah, my story is just like it says here on the slide. I'm an American who became a salary man here in Japan. I've lived in Tokyo the whole time. But yeah, I moved here from Los Angeles 2008. I went from a startup company in Los Angeles, software company, to NTT, the most traditional Japanese company you could probably move
Oh,
to. So that's one of the things that are about my story, is that transition and the book that came out of it. The rest of this timeline, I won't go line by line, but it gives you an idea of I worked for 4 Japanese companies in 10 years as one of the only foreigners in the whole company. So I always joke I was a lifetime employee, a Seishine, 4 times. 4 lifetimes in 10 years. So that there were a lot of funny stories that came out of that, fish out of water kind of things, and learned a ton about Japanese culture and about book publishing along the way. So that's where today's topic is headed. I wanted to just give some ideas and recommend some tools that can help people tell their own stories or tell their businesses stories. And we can go through that. The one thing I wanted to note on this is I have a poem here on the left. One of my favorite things to follow in Japan are these things called salaryman senryu, which are published every year by the Daiichi Life Insurance Company by real Japanese salarymen. I don't know if that includes women. They should, but it's only men, I think. But some of the funniest insights into Japanese working culture come from that contest. So that's one of the inspirations that's been behind my book writing.
can you give a quick summary of what Sendu is for the people that don't know the history of it? Just very simple. Well,
Yeah, I'm not a poetry nut or anything. It's just like a haiku,
right.
but haiku are about nature and lofty subjects like that, contemplation of seasons changing, stuff like that. Senryu are about everyday life,
Yeah,
human foibles, and they're 17 syllables and 3 lines, just like haiku.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, good, good. I was exposed to it when I was studying Dakugo in college, and because they would use a lot of it within their story framework, and some people even say there was a lot of influence in comic storytelling from the Sendu tradition, which goes way back, right?
Oh,
So,
really?
oh yeah, yeah. So very interesting. Okay, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that was my intro. I guess I took the floor for a little longer than the normal intro.
No, actually, that was kind of short, but it's good. I'm glad you did it. And I just want to jump in and say that I was exposed to Michael first when I saw him on LinkedIn and his book, The Salary Man. And I there were some things Michael said that I thought were hilarious. And then just, serendipity. I did a post on the Chicago Bulls because I was actually a salesperson living in Chicago during the Bulls, mythical run in the 90s. And so I was very lucky. I had a big budget, and I used to take a lot of my Japanese clients to Bulls games. And Michael jumped in and said, "Oh my God, I'm a big Bulls fan." So that's where we formed that Chicago bond. So I'm really glad Michael's on, and we're very happy to have him today and to promote him. And I think you'll really enjoy today's presentation. So go ahead, Mike.
Oh, yeah, thanks. That reminiscing about the Bulls. I'm always ready to take a warm bath in Bulls nostalgia.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
No problem. Okay, well then we can jump into some of just ideas and self-publishing, what it's all about, and feel free to jump in with questions along the way. Shall we do that?
Go for it.
Okay. I'll jump into the slide. Let's see. Is that the? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I self-published a book in 2019 about my experiences of working. It's a memoir of working in Japanese companies as an American. And then I published a manga series spin-off from that book the next year in 2020. So that's where I learned how to self-publish, was during that period. And that's sort of where my starting point was of today, is the experience I had doing that. And I took a few years off to focus on my career, and now I'm jumping really hard back into self-publishing with a couple new books this year. One is my father's autobiography, which I'm ghostwriting. Interviewed him. He lives in Chicago still, over 7 months, and I ghostwritten his autobiography. It's been a great bonding experience and just incredible way to preserve my family's stories. Highly recommend doing that with your family if you have the time. And then I'm doing a book of my own poems, the Senryu poems, called Salary Manhood, based on the same themes as the book, The Salary Man. It'll be 50 illustrated poems in Japanese and English, coming out in a few months. But enough about what I've written. I want to pass on some ideas and things I've learned along the way of self-publishing a book, especially from Japan. But first, I think good question is, why self-publish a book, or even have a book at all, given how much of an investment of your time it is. And I want to emphasize the word self in self-publish is a little misleading, because it takes a lot of work and help to self-publish a book. First, it takes your family's or partner's acceptance of your time that it's going to take to do something like that. But really, the reason to do it, one, is you can. Like, there's so many tools out there now. Like, you can see how we're self-publishing a video right now, YouTube. Well, it's the same thing for books. It's that easy right now to just find a platform to do this. But I think the main reasons for doing it is just creating a lasting record of your stories, your content, your family history, your business, and something you can give people that's memorable and tangible in their hands. That's been the biggest. When I saw the book for the first time in my hands, like, that is something you will always remember. So that's one of the biggest reasons I think to do it. It's just that it's quite a feeling of accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you, I think, another reason to do it as a business person or a thought leader or expert in your field. It can add a lot of credibility to your target customers, to be able to hand them. You don't just say, "Oh, go read my LinkedIn posts." You can say, "Here's my full theories on AI in the workplace," and give them a book. That's something that can build a lot of credibility, and you can put your full narrative into it, unlike social media. But it blends well with social media too. So you can, a book can become a source of like endless podcasts and social media posts. You can just tap into it. Like one chapter of a book could be 3 podcasts, that kind of return. on your investment is possible from a content creation point of view. And lastly, it's profitable. Like it costs virtually, I mean, you're in control of the budget. You don't have to hire an editor or a fancy book cover designer. Those things are fine and good and worth it. But if you just want to go in and have something, that represents you and your family or your business the best you can, and have the best editing effort you can without spending money, it's really profitable. You can get up to 70% royalties on every sale of your book. So I'll get into that.
Mike, it's very interesting because just now I realized that when you say self-publish, it means actually publishing a physical book, like a paper book. Because in my mind, it was always self-publishing was always related to digital format.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is a discovery that occurred to me just now while listening to you. So it is fascinating because you said it's really great to feel the book in your hands, right?
Yes.
And so to me, it adds another layer of complexity because I believe that publishing a digital book is not as probably less time consuming than actually publishing physical one, a paper book. What? Yeah, comments on this?
Yes. So actually, when I first set out to publish The Salaryman, I wasn't aware of the term or what print on demand meant, or that it was that available. But yeah, print on demand is something in the US, in Western part of the world, a lot of companies offer this, including Amazon. In Japan, pretty much it's only Amazon, but yeah, you can offer your book in both print and ebook formats using the same file. The only real difference is you have a little bit more of an extensive cover design for print. It's got a front and a back and sort of a spine you got to worry about, whereas an ebook just has a JPEG for your cover. Other than that, it's pretty much the same amount of time and complexity. But yeah, I agree. The actual having a tangible book in your hand is a whole nother deal.
Yeah.
Especially for us older people over 40, where it's like we grew up with books, in our hands,
Yes.
on the trains even. It's remarkably, you can just have, my father said it best. He was like, he had no idea he could buy a book written by somebody in Japan and have it delivered to his doorstep in Chicago the next day. That was just
Yeah.
like blue.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. You just told me now. Wow. I have kind of a related question. And so originally when the whole self-publishing thing started coming out, I think there were some people who thought that that going with a publisher, which first of all, you got to get a publisher to publish you. I think there was this myth that used to be true that the publisher would promote you. But if you self-publish, you got to promote yourself. And I feel like today, the publishers don't really promote you anymore. You got to promote yourself. You got to be on social media. Is that true? Is there like, okay, so.
Yeah, they expect you to already have a following and a platform. That's at least half of their decision in deciding to publish your book, regardless of your writing quality.
Yeah. Okay.
That's part of it, but the big part of it really is your platform for the traditional publishing route. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Just, and later, maybe, I don't know if you're going to get into this, but some of the things you've done to promote yourself and how's that going, and any tips you can give people who want to do what you did. Yeah. Okay.
That's part of okay. Yeah. I have some stuff on that in the next, I have a couple slides on that. A couple of Japan specific quirks to self-publishing a book. Here is, so Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, I'll call it KDP for short. One of the quirks of it is their royalties for ebooks is only 35% in Japan, and it's 70% in most major regions, including the US. But there is a way around this, which is sort of a detail, but if you just exclusively want to put your book on Amazon and let them have exclusive rights to it, which is fine because they really control 90% of the readership volume in the market, then you'll get 70% in Japan. But yeah, if you want to go, if you have aspirations to have your book in bookstores in the US and other platforms like Google or Apple Books and Kobo, then you can't be exclusive with Amazon, and then you'll only get 35% royalties in Japan. One of the deals. But we'll put this in perspective, though. If you go with a traditional publisher, which is great if you can, you only get like 9% royalty.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
Maybe a little more on an ebook, like 10 or 11 or 12.
I see.
So, yeah, there are lots of financial reasons self-publishing's better too. So okay, for a royalty, to give you a picture, if you sell your book for 600 yen, that's a little over 200 yen royalty per book that you earn. Assuming that's 35%. 70%, you can see where that would go. It'd be pretty profitable.
Yes.
So it's nice and you can look at those reports every day, and it's a nice little way to wake up in the morning, just to look and see how your book sales are going. On the dashboards they give you at KDP. KDP, though, for print, as Maya was talking about, having the print physical version, pretty much it's the only game in town in Japan for print on demand, especially one that has everything in English. And if you're, Japanese, there might be some homegrown ones that you might be able to use, but nothing with the size or breadth of Amazon, though. Little things like hardcover books you might have in your mind, like a print book is something hardcover. Amazon does offer that, but not in Japan yet. They have hardcover in the US and other regions of Europe. Not in Japan yet.
Yes, Yuka, go ahead. We have, I think.
Sorry, I didn't know that I was muted. So, Mike, great topic, and I don't know where to begin. I have tons of questions. I hope you have like 2 days just for me. So since we were talking about low royalty in Japan, do you have any idea why that is? Is it a language issue or like a distribution issue, or do you just low in Japan?
It's not only Japan. I think India, they have that same deal, and a couple other countries. I don't know why. It's a good question. It definitely boggles the mind a little bit, because that's a big number. But like I said, though, it's a little bit a moot point, though, because you can easily get 70% in Japan if you just make your ebook exclusive on Amazon.
Okay.
It's the only game in town, really, in Japan. So that's what I did. But I should note, I'm just talking about your ebook. You can have your ebook exclusive on Amazon, but your print book you can distribute anywhere you want. You could have it on Amazon. You can have it on Barnes and Noble, Ingram in US, Kobo. Or no, Kobo doesn't do print books, but you can have it on other print book platforms.
But I have a question there then. So you're talking about the digital format of your book. It should be exclusive here for Amazon in Japan, right? But how do you print the physical book? So do you need another, let's say, do you need to have a contract with a publishing house there, or is it print on demand, or what is the dynamic there?
It's print on demand. So you create, it's the same account and same file as your ebook. You open up you go into your KDP account on Amazon, and you have your PDF of your book that's been completed, and you have a cover design, and you go in there, you create an ebook, and then you create a print book in the same title. Like it'll be an ASIN, 2 different ASINs, one for your ebook and one for your print book on KDP, side by side in your account. And it's 2 different files and like 2 different ASINs on the Amazon store, but they're linked and it's on the same Amazon page.
So Amazon actually does the physical printing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't. It's one vendor. It's in house.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, and then once a bookstore in the United States want to have several copies of your book, they have to go to Amazon and have Amazon print those copies and ship them to that physical store, or?
Yeah. So you're not, when you're going through Amazon, you are not going through the traditional brick and mortar book channel.
Right.
So that's one clear distinction. You're going to a direct to consumer channel, just like anything else on Amazon. Toilet paper, video games, clothing. So you're not going to see your book in Barnes and Noble, if those are still around, even in the US, if you only have your book on Amazon. It's direct to consumer. So yes, you can order up to 20, 30 copies at a time if you want of your book, and it will ship directly to you in that exact amount. But it's not really it's not where book stores go to buy their inventory. That's a whole nother vendor. It's called Ingram in the US, and that's a channel you can go through. You can make your print book available on Ingram, which is the biggest supplier of book inventory, really, to brick and mortar bookstores. You can do that and do Amazon at the same time. It's totally
okay. All right, because yes, it's still, I'm not in this business at all, so it's still, the links between the different steps and stages of publishing on Amazon, and then selling in physical stores in other countries. I mean, these links are not existent, I cannot see them, but that's okay. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Yes.
Yes. Big picture is, you publish on Amazon, you're available in every country Amazon's in. So
I see.
Just because you're in Japan doesn't mean anyone
right.
Europe, Russia, US, of course, just about every country in Asia. So your book is on every store.
Right.
I want to become famous in Russia. Okay.
Maybe not Russia. That's probably not the best example.
So maybe you need to write in Russian, Yuka.
Yeah, right. So so can I just throw in a question that if you're going to cover later, maybe I can wait. So my question, the first and foremost is there any topic which is more suitable to self-publishing? Is there any topic is a fair game? Or, maybe, if you can talk about that later. And then that I like to sort of, if you can share your thought on this, that would be great. And then also, how you can promote in, so any sort of venue, like even Amazon or outside of Amazon, like, Tim asked, I kind of like to, learn about that too. But if you're going to cover later, I'll wait.
I think the second part of your question I cover later. The first one, though, it's totally up to you, like, about what topic is appropriate. That's up to you. Are you trying to make, the first question is, is your goal making royalties and earning money, or is it promoting your expertise as a thought leader, or your business concept, or just your family's, like my father's autobiography? The point is not to make money. It's to just preserve the family stories and share that with family and friends. So in that context, anything's appropriate within certain reasonable exceptions. They will filter out, anything that is graphic, or, they have filters that will prevent inappropriate content. But everything else is fair game. And the categories that do the best, though, as far as getting exposure on the Amazon channels and getting the most avid readers and passionate readers reading over and over again, is, you can guess, it's romance, romance novels, and fantasy. Those genres just dominate the readership, and it's amazing. I worked at Amazon, so I saw the numbers. It's, a lot of the volume that drives the book publishing at Amazon, self-publishing, are successful work at home, self-published romance novelists and fantasy novelists. It's
How
just
about that?
amazing how much
Mystery, but
that is what.
Yeah, yeah. I hope this answered your question. And we have a question on YouTube, Mike. So it is from Diana Green, and Diana is a painter. So her question is, what is the quality of the visual imagery reproduction in book and e-form? Is there a difference? And if so, what is the difference?
Oh, okay, so you're talking about illustrations,
And
that kind of
yes, paintings, modern art as well. Yes.
yeah. Well, they Amazon works hard at making their print on demand high enough quality where it passes, for industry standard of, like, it's good enough for top 5 publishing houses to use a lot of their top authors. These major publishing houses, they let some of their top authors, will self-publish titles from time to time and not use their publisher. Maybe they're tapping into a new pen name, or they're testing a new genre. So the quality, that answers a lot right there, that a lot of these authors' names you would recognize, even Stephen King is self-published on Amazon. They trust the quality, and I've seen it with my own eyes. It is, getting better every year. You don't see any distinction really between the quality of your illustrations on the ebook format versus print.
Okay.
I had a heavily illustrated book. My salaryman had almost 80 manga illustrations, and we were really pleased. My artist and I were really pleased with the quality of it.
Nice.
Yeah. But then how about the reproduction of artwork? So, like, because I know that Diana, she's in modern art and her paintings are, in this area. So, do you have any insights about the reproduction of such artworks there on Amazon?
A little outside my domain. Whether I think most artists, and I do have a friend here in my neighborhood here in Tokyo,
Yeah.
a Russian gentleman who is a photographer, and he just used KDP, and I walked him through it to publish his own photography book instead of using a publisher. And he insisted on only having it in print. He didn't like the idea of his photos being consumed in the ebook format. And I think most people who publish art books and like a coffee table book or a children's book, that's print only. I think they don't usually go into the ebook format because it's not the way, it doesn't best represent.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. It makes sense. Yeah.
These are my observations of others. I've never published an all illustrated book myself.
Yeah, and also, I mean, obviously the photo image that's taken is going to be important, right? I mean, that's the first step of getting that quality. You got to have a quality representation of that to start with, right? I mean, that's kind of stating the obvious, right? Okay.
Yeah. To me, it is also interesting because personally, when I observe my let's say interaction with social media and content on social media, and also physical books, the consumption, I consume art mostly on media. I mean, like online nowadays. And when I say I consume it, I mean like I look at all these pictures and photographs and everything online. And of course, sometimes it's on social media, sometimes it is on websites. But I personally don't choose the option of buying books. It's really fascinating because it seems that maybe the authors prefer to have their, the reproductions of their works on paper, beautiful print and so on. While people like me, we would rather go, for just looking at those beautiful artworks online. So I don't know, have you noticed anything? And maybe this is also about illustrations, because you mentioned that, yes, art is not exactly the field you work in, but I don't know whether you have noticed anything like this division of, preferences between the authors themselves and then the consumers.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the limitations of electronic format for
Yeah.
reproducing something that was painted or photographed is ebook. The formatting, it puts it not only inside of an electronic screen, that in itself is is a different medium, but
Mm-hmm.
you can't get the. There's something called full bleed, which is a way of laying out an illustration or anything illustrated or graphically depicted in a book. You can make it go all the way to the end of the margins in a print book,
Mm-hmm.
so that there's no white on border on the side of the page. You can have
Yeah.
your photograph or your painting, your art, covering the whole page in print.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas ebook, it's not going to show up like that. There's always going to be a border around it,
Right.
margin, and then you have the screen itself around it. Whereas a book, a print book with full bleed, you can have you open the book and it's all your painting or it's all your art. It's all you see, and it's glossy, and it's represents more of like what you originally probably intended. I think that's why most artists or photographers choose print, high quality print only.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you for that, because I was not aware of that personally. And once again, this is just an experience, but sometimes I go to exhibitions. Well, you know that in Tokyo there are quite a few exhibitions you can go and, see and enjoy the paintings there and everything. And almost at the end of every exhibition, almost always there is actually a book with the artworks there. And I always wondered, why isn't there, an e-format? Like you can, they have a QR code, you screen it, you download the work. And personally, I think I prefer that, because I mean, just like almost every home in Tokyo, I don't have enough space to store every book that I enjoyed reading,
Yeah.
right? And for me, it's more a more practical solution. After having seen the paintings or the photographs, for example, in person in front of me, so having that e-book, the e-format, because it's just a reminder for me, of the feeling and the thoughts I had when I was looking at the paintings, uh, in front of me, physically in front of me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the color scheme online
mhm,
always seems to be just slightly off of what you're actually seeing in real life. And you would know more about that than me, Mike, but like Maya, I'm the same. I still do like the idea of holding a book.
yeah,
But
so,
for the same reason, just the space it takes. And also, I became a believer in the ebook because I used to travel all around the US, right? And I'd always bring books to read on the plane or at night after my seminars. And one night I finished the book and I didn't have anything to read. And I thought, oh, if I had a Kindle,
Yeah.
I could just download it right now. I wouldn't have to go to a bookstore, out in the boonies here. So that was what won me over. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense what Maya just said. Especially you live in Japan, you just don't have the space. So I get it. So
Yeah.
do you think the color schemes online, the digital colors, are they improving where they more closely match the original, or do you still see a gap?
Oh, I think the resolution and the way it gets compressed into when you upload your ebook into like a system like Amazon KDP, there is some compression that goes on to make the file small enough so that your book isn't costing like $20.
Yeah, yeah,
right.
but I didn't find it compromised the art I had done, which was manga illustrations, which, let's face it, they were comedic illustrations. So I wasn't worried like, oh, this is ruining the
aesthetic.
meaning of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I was
makes
like,
sense.
I wanted the book to be affordable. So I was like, yeah, go ahead and compress it. But because the size of the ebook that you actually upload, the PDF file, that helps determine the price of your book.
Oh.
That's the system cost. So if you have this
Gotcha.
huge, heavy file of really high resolution book full of photos, it's probably going to cost a little more than a novel, you know, that has only a book cover and no illustrations. It's
I
just
see.
Gotcha.
the file's heavier. So
Gotcha.
that's
That
just
makes
one
sense.
factor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And let's continue because I know that we still haven't gone through all the slides you have prepared for us.
Sure. Okay. Here's a little representation of like the publishing process simplified.
Yes.
So I won't go through each one, but it starts with the concept. And you know, what's your purpose? Is it just to make money and you really want to be a full-time author? That's one way of approaching it. And then the other is just, I want to do this just to put something down on paper for my family or my business, and start from there. And then outlining, which is that's a really boring topic, but and a lot of people don't even outline. But it always helps to have a plan of like where you're going with the book and have the chapters outlined or the plot or have all of your points that you want to cover. And first draft and all the way through preparing before you publish, a little marketing plan is a very good discipline to just have up front. Podcasts like this to talk about your book before you publish and get people subscribing to your social channels before you publish, because then once you publish, you have people who are going to automatically be interested if you've done that work. So that's the process of publishing. And you don't always have to spend a lot of money on number 4, the editing and design. It's purely up to your goals. I will say this though, a book cover is a very important investment. So if you're going to spend any money at all on anything, a good book cover is definitely where you want to spend it. Okay. And I talked about concept, like what's your hook or what's your uniqueness to your book? Mine was, I found it was having fun with the culture gap. And a lot of like the genre I wrote, The Salaryman, is one of those fish out of water, foreigner in Japan stories. And I read a lot of the books out there. I liked a lot of them, but I found what was missing was, I don't know who the person was, like where they came from. They never talk about like putting what they're learning and doing every day in Japan against the backdrop of their upbringing. Like,
right.
It's like they were almost dropped here and you don't have that history. And I'm always like, well, did you grow up like studying Japanese? And like, who were you? You know, where'd you grow up? What were your parents like? What was your brother like? And so I was like, I wanted to really hook into that and show I had zero preparation for being put into a formal Japanese company. Like I grew up in the most typical Midwest middle class. That picture on the left is my brother vacuuming my throw up because I ate too much candy. Like that's the I lived in. Was like, you know, shenanigans left and right, dogs peeing on our Nintendo, like just wild, you know, typical American culture stuff, messy, opposite company, right? Like,
right.
I had to learn all these mannerisms, like bowing to my boss, asking for one day off, like I am in that picture. It was totally different. I had no Japanese skills going into that. So that was my hook, was like having fun with that, not making fun of Japan, but having fun with the culture gap.
Right. Yes.
And I love that, you know, I'm not sure there's a question in here, but just a comment. I love that you used your sense of humor to maybe in some ways cope with the challenges of coming here, because some people get angry, you know, and we all do, maybe sometimes we get emotional, but having a sense of humor really helps ease some of the pain in integrating yourself into the culture and just surviving. Do you think that helped a lot? Because your sense of humor is great. I love the way you look at it.
Thanks. Yeah, I joke it was part self, not just self-publishing, but self-therapy.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
Humor's therapeutic for sure. Right.
it is.
Great.
Yes.
Totally. I started it as a blog. The book started out as a blog, actually, illustrated blog, and it was just sort of an outlet for these things
Right.
I was experiencing. You know,
Hmm.
the rules of regulations of a Japanese company, and stubbing my toe on how to sign my name with a stamp properly, and like, you know, being asked by HR to restamp it 8 times because it was crooked. Like, these little things will drive you crazy if you let them.
Right.
And it's
Right.
not their fault. It's not their fault, but it's just like, it's the culture gap's fault. That's what I want. I
Yeah.
kept.
Yes.
I feel like you could do stand up. You could turn this into stand up if you're inclined that way. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
Ugh.
No, but I love also what you said about people, and first talking a little bit about their background, where they come from, because I also remember once. It's I was asked to talk about what was surprising to me in Japan after I came to Japan, and the first image that came into my mind, and I actually had those two things on a slide back then, was the informal Bulgarian garden, and then a Japanese garden. And then in the informal Bulgarian garden, you have everything, just in bunches. And it looks like there is nothing there, like there is no order. You've got, a patch of this, a patch of that, and there are no borders and so on. And then in Japan, everything is manicured. You have the bonsai like trees, and, they're cut and trimmed, and, they look impeccable, and everything is just beautiful. And so, of course, my Japanese audience back then, they just laughed and said, "No, you cannot be serious about that garden back home." And I'm like, "Why not? What's so strange about it?" So,
Yeah,
um,
we can be a little wild in our
yeah,
culture
yeah,
games, untamed. We let our dogs roam around the neighborhood,
mm,
instead of carting them around in baby cart,
yeah,
on the baby cars like they do.
That's my pet peeve. That's my pet peeve.
yeah.
Uh, Let me share some resources, because I think that's some of the takeaway here. Is I want people to jot down if they're interested in trying out self-publishing. Here's some resources that got me going or have helped me a ton, so you don't
Yeah.
have to go and find them. There's one called this writing community online called NaNoWriMo.
Mm-hmm.
They have a contest it's an event every year. I think it's in December or January, that has the most traffic, where in 1 month they challenge you to write your novel as fast as you can, and you're in a group and everybody's pushing each other and helping each other with writing it. But you can do it any time of year. It's a great way to get the ball rolling, I found. You don't have to stick with it. It's just, if it helps you get the first week going, then just do that. But you can stick with it and have fun with the other writers. It helps to have beta readers, people helping you read your stuff with a different point of view, give you positive feedback. And then, what do you write on? You can use Word if you want, if that's how I wrote my book. But I've learned since then that there's things that make writing more fun and just a lot easier. Like, the one I use is called Atticus, which is a new piece of software made by self-published authors. And it's not very expensive. It's less than 10,000 yen for a lifetime license. And it's just unbelievable. You can write and see how your book looks on an iPad, on an iPhone, in print format at the same time. And it has all these things that make tracking your word count and how long your
Mm-hmm.
chapters are. And it has, you don't even need to hire somebody to format your book. It has built-in book formatting tools that lay it out like it looks on the right.
Mm-hmm.
So Atticus was a great one, but you don't need to use these things. And Google Docs is good for, like, if you have a collaboration with an editor, or another author or co-author, that's a really good way to just share input, get edits, and go back and forth. So that's what I use. I think one question some people might have is, like, a book sounds too long. I can't plan that far ahead, how, like, 200 pages, chapters.
Right.
If you want to try, you can just do an episode at a time. And the ones that are more well-known are listed here, but there's many flavors, or many, even homegrown in Japan, in Japanese, there's a lot of episodic manga platforms and things like that. If you just want to write like a chapter at a time, Kindle Vella in the US, UK, and EU is very well known for this. Another one called Inkit and Wattpad. Those are also, you can just write one at a time, and people will give you feedback. There'll be comments, and you can publish as often as you want. And if you want to close it down and be like, okay, I got a taste of it, and you're confident, then you can always, they're not exclusive, these platforms. You can take what you've written and turn it into a book later. So it's a good way to get started if it's too, it seems too long-term of a project to do a book.
That's, just a quick question, like, one of my friends, DC Palter, by the way, he wrote a book called To Kill a Unicorn.
Yeah.
And he recently he's got his new book coming up, and it's Countdown to Decryption. He's a great writer. And he asked me once, what do you spend more time on, your first draft or your rewrite? And for me, my first drafts are really fast, but my rewrites take forever. How about you? What, in your process, what do you?
Unfortunately, my first draft takes long, and that's
what
not necessarily a great way to be prolific as far as the amount or how often you publish. I tend to get bogged down into the details of making it as good as possible the first time around. But that's counter to what most people say you should do.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And after we offline, and maybe not today, but in the future, I want to introduce you to Linus and Rebecca. I think you'll like them, because they're doing some really interesting stuff online, episodal and manga related. And I also want to introduce you to our other friend, Binati. She's actually in India. She's she's an editor, right?
Yes.
But she has a lot of knowledge. I just like to connect you to them. But
I think it's mainly ghostwriting.
Yes, for her.
That's right, ghostwriting. She's a ghostwriter. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Yuka.
That's great. I'd love to hear her. I ghost wrote my father's autobiography here the last 7 months, and that's been fascinating. So I'd love to talk to her.
She's brilliant. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So you said the cover is critical, and then I presume the title as well. So can I sort of cheat by asking AI what's the most popular cover and title? How can we sort of use AI as our capable assistant?
Yeah, AI is getting. There are tools out there. I should have put that on here. There's an AI tool that is sort of like the ultimate writer's cramp, or what do you call it? Writer's block tool for, like, if you're stuck, you can throw a blob of content in it and it'll restructure it as a narrative. You just got to give it a little bit of prompting, like make it like a horror novel, and there's lightning, and it'll give you like a start, and then you go from there. I'm forgetting the name of this tool, but there are things popping up that help you with it can if you prompt it well enough, it can be sort of a writer's tool for ideas and how to structure a paragraph or a page. And there is a really good tool on this site I list here called how-to resources at the bottom, Kindlepreneur. They have an AI tool for writing a book blurb for your Amazon page, because this is a part of the purchasing decision on Amazon. And this Kindlepreneur is very much an expert on everything Amazon, how to sell your books right on there. And they have a tool that uses ChatGPT to take your book blurb and make it even better sales pitch to a shopper. It took what I wrote and then it gave it like a makeover from the point of view of like reader benefit. What does the reader get out of this? And bullet pointed very cleanly, looks good on the Amazon site, and it sells the book well from the reader's point of view. It took what I had written with my tunnel vision and made it so much more intelligent for like a shopper making a decision. Helpful. So
is that a free service?
Yeah, it's a free tool on kindlepreneur.com.
Oh, wow.
Somewhere on there. I can provide the links later, maybe on the YouTube.
Yes, please do.
Show.
Excellent.
But yeah, AI is becoming. It's even going into audiobooks. You can use AI to record an audiobook in an AI voice, but the voices are getting better and better every year. Some people think it's blasphemy to have an AI
voice,
a narrated audiobook, but the truth is to have it done by a human or yourself, but by a human costs $3,000-$4,000 in production costs, and you can't go back and edit it. Like once it's in the can, it's done.
Right.
But with AI, you can be like, oh, I didn't like the way it pronounced this word, and you can have it correct that word. And you can just always go back and edit, and it's almost free. And so it's just a matter of whether you like the audio quality, which is a judgment call. But there are a lot of tools. If you want to turn your ebook into an audiobook, you can use AI to do it. Even Amazon is jumping into that, slowly starting to accept AI narrated audiobooks into their.
So my last question is like, so this should be this should have been the first question, but so what is the selling point if you have to pick one of self-publishing or books over any other format, like a podcast or little blog or like, the YouTube or so? Why one would want this format, or do you just want to do all kinds of pick all kind of format to sell your content? Could you share like what is what is the best selling point of books, if you can share one? Thank you. Am I putting you on
format?
I'm biased, right? Because I'm talking about self-publishing. So I'm.
Oh yeah, sorry. Everybody. Yeah, right. Okay.
So I think but we have a couple of podcasters here with us, so we can get that point of view. For me, it's about the permanence of it, and I think the snooty answer to that is I don't think there's any better way to tell your story than a narrative. I think that's the kind of high-minded answer to that is like, I think a little snippet of 1 minute social media or 100 posts is not going to fully tell the narrative of how something happened.
I agree.
So that's my one answer. But I think the other is, I think it's very clear what the financial returns on it are too. Like you can see you can do a royalty estimate before you even write the book. You can go, it's going to be 200 pages in black and white on paperback, and you can go in on Amazon before you even publish and see how much you'll make per book. I'm not aware of anything on social media or other forms of publishing something that gives you that clear of a projection. So I think that's another more straightforward.
Those are great points. So thank you. No, that wasn't the easy question. Sorry about that.
Sure. Any opposing point of view is welcome, because it's not an easy process. That's the downside is none of this is easy. Not as easy as I'm not saying doing what podcast is easy, because that takes a ton of production too. But I think a book is a solitary endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest difference with some of those other formats you just mentioned. Those are more social and interactive.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the downside of a book is it is pretty solitary, and there's ways you can change that. You can have like a group of beta readers, friends, really,
Mm-hmm.
read what you're writing as you go to make it less solitary.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much. The thing that's amazing though in the last 3 years is that the tools have become even easier to get the book done. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, this book brush website, which is free up to a certain point. You can go through and subscribe and get even more tools, but you can use it for free to like get your cover design done. Like if you just want something quick and simple, they have tons of templates, and they have like you can turn your book into like an ad, like it has right here, like for like a fall seasonal. Like there's just thousands. It's like Canva, but for books.
Right.
Simplified graphic for non-graphic design people. It just makes life so much easier, and it's a lot of fun to use. So there's so many tools out there that make this easier than even when I did this 4 years ago. And these are all listed here. Publisher Rocket is a great one. Kindlepreneur owns that Publisher Rocket tool. It's something that gives you information on how well other titles on Amazon are selling.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's yeah.
I don't know how they get this data, but you can type Japanese cookbook, and it'll like show you that as far as you want to go, you can see the top 100 titles that pop up, how many they sell, how much they sell a day, and what their genre categories they chose were for putting their book on the store. Yeah, it's just an amazing tool. So it's a rabbit hole that you can go down to self-publish your book. None of this is essential if you're just doing this casually, but if you're doing it to get this done efficiently and make it into like a side business or even represent your business, all these tools would be really helpful.
Right.
I love that you shared this, because it takes time to figure out this stuff and what resources are available. And in a sense, you've curated it for everybody. And I'm glad you sent me the PDF, because now I got it at hand and I can come back and reference it. These are like great tools. Are they all free? Just to be clear.
Book Brush I mentioned is just free up to a certain number.
Gotcha. Oh, right. Gotcha. Yeah. You did mention.
Publisher Rocket is not. It's a lifetime license. I think it is less than $100.
That's reasonable. Yeah.
Atticus 2 is another like less than $100 lifetime. BB eBooks is just if you don't want to use a profession, or if you don't want to do the formatting using any of these tools and you want someone to do it. This company I used for my salaryman book layout, BB eBooks, they're in Thailand, did it for like less than 20,000 yen. Took my monstrous Word file and turned it into an ebook and print book. So that's a good one. If all this is, you just want to write and that's it, and hand it over to someone else to do all this stuff, that's my sales pitch right here.
I support you. Yeah.
I can even ghostwrite the book if you were in your voice, of course, through a series of interviews and any source material you provide. So that's another avenue. There's not just me, but there's lots of people, including maybe someone on your guest list who does this for a living. Yeah, you can have somebody do it for you, including editing.
I think that Mike, people like you make life of others, who are busy working and still want to get their ideas out there. You make the lives of such people so much easier by helping them, probably with the ghostwriting and then with the publishing process and everything. Because it's I cannot fathom how somebody who is working, who is in business, and they're busy from, let's say, from 8 to 8, how they can spare time to go through all the process, of publishing and editing and also formatting and everything. It's just too much work.
Yeah. So anybody out there who is interested in self-publishing, so please contact Mike. We'll put his LinkedIn profile up on YouTube, and maybe do a follow-up post on this, because it was great. And I know we didn't cover everything. We'd love to have you back. Definitely, like, if you want to come back on before you publish your next 2 books, we'd be happy to have you. This was great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. And before actually we say goodbye, I'm going to say that we're going to have Mike once again in 2 weeks with us. So
Yes.
Mike, I'm looking forward to that session as well. And to everybody watching us or listening to us, join us at that point again. And you can prepare some questions that probably, will come up after you go through, the slides. And if you listen to this, to our podcast now. So please, yes, be ready
I'll
with.
answer questions in the next appearance.
Yeah, yes, great. Okay, so thank you very much. And it is 1 minute past 9 o'clock. This is the time when we usually say goodbye to everybody and wish them a happy midweek. Mike, thank you so very much for being with us today and for sharing all the experience you have in self-publishing and the resources as well. And once again, yes, it was great. And to everybody who is willing to, get their ideas or their story out there, think about Mike. So he will be there, to help. And thanks a lot. So Mike will be with us in 2 weeks. Again. And that's all for the moment. Have a happy Wednesday, and we'll see you again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Maya. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay, I have to go